How's everybody doing? It's early February and it's fly tying season for me. I'm just thinking about, boy, the hatches coming up in the spring and summer. And one of my favorite hatches is the PMD. And just wanted to give you guys share with you some tips that have helped me over the years and things that I've kind of learned with this hatch. When I first came out here, I was fishing bunch of freestones and faster tailwaters. And for the most part, I could get away with a basic parachute with a PMD colored body and do really well with it. And when I moved over to the Missouri River, it was a bit more challenging. And what I found was that the flatter water, the fish would be a little bit more selective. I had to, change my presentation at times to, fish down to the fish. And then the other thing that really shocked me was I watched fish pass by duns, just dun after dun after dun, but you'd see selectively them eating on the surface. And you're like, what the heck is going on here? And sure enough, they were eating spinners, and rusty spinners, more specifically, on the Missouri has been one of my just cheat codes for catching fish that are really difficult. And especially when you see them passing up, regular bugs that are alive on the surface, but they've got so much food on that river that they can choose which one they want to eat. And if you fish a rusty spinner, it really works well. And one of the things I found, I'll say back on some of those other tailwaters that were faster and some of the freestones, was just fishing the parachute. You could fish a parachute, and you still can, even on the Missouri. You could fish a parachute rusty colored body or the regular PMD and do really fine with it. You don't have to fish that flat wing PMD fly that is very difficult to see. And as a guide, when you're trying to get other people to help them see that fly, and myself, having a post out there, whether it's a parachute or a comparadun, is what I've found is really. So if you look at my box now, I do have some flat spent wings that if I get a fish that's really picky, I'll pull those out. But you can also you'll see a lot of guys, and this is a good fly. Hopefully this will show up. It's basically a parachute with a hackle around the post, if it's showing up. And this is an excellent version, but it's still not quite as visible as a comparadun. And I'll just show you the comparadun. So the comparadun, if you look at it from the bottom, that profile is a lot like a spinner, but that wing stands up so much more. And I fished CDCs, and they work fine too, but they just don't float as well, and there's not as visible for me or other people that I'm fishing with. And so I threw the regular comparadun at them, and son of a gun, they ate it. And these are picky fish on the Missouri, and they ate it over and over. And I see very few, if any, other people fishing this. And I'll probably get a whole bunch of posts that say, oh yeah, I do. But at least the folks that I bump into most of the time, don't fish this comparadun. But the bottom line is they take it, and that profile looking up is really close to what you would see for a spinner. So give it a try. I'm gonna tie one up now, and it really is a code cracker. So we're gonna start off. I've got some Semperfli thread. This is it's actually 18/0, so it's pretty thin stuff. I like it for tying any kind of deer hair flies. Your line is not going to snap quite so easy. Alright, so I'm just going to give the tail, it's going to be just maybe a touch longer, and I'm going to lift it up by putting some thread wraps underneath it. Sometimes I'll split it as well. This is not super important, it's more for the fishermen, to be honest, but I don't typically even count the number. of tails. 2 or 3 usually is what I do. Sometimes there's a couple more in there. In this case there is. And alright, so we got split tails there. And I'm going to give it, and again, you could dub this just a regular rusty brown. I like the look of goose biots, so that's what I do. So put some goose biots in there. Curved side up is how I usually try to get it to show the rippling effect that it will give you. See, that just makes it like a little rib for it. We'll just bring it all the way up, just about the spot where we're going to put the deer hair in there. The deer hair is pretty important too. You want something that's got really good hollow tips. Just make sure my tails are split apart. Sometimes you'll have to adjust them later on too. Alright, so there's a spot where we're going to pop the wing in. And I've been using Nature's Spirit, and not all of these are equal either. But you can see when those stems are a little bit fatter, it'll just flare a little bit nicer for you. The other thing you want is you want really short tips, because that lighter color on the tips is not going to float that fly. It's also not the color of a PMD wing. So let's say this is probably, you know, that light gray is what you get, and that's kind of perfect for a PMD wing. All right, I'm going to find my hair stacker here. And I find that this, I like it pretty full. I don't like these to sink. Started tying this with CDC at first, and it was a little bit tougher to keep it afloat. And this one, they just eat it. So I'm not changing, keeping it the way it is. So this, measurement wise, is usually the eye to the bend of the hook. And I don't put all my pressure down here yet, partial there. And if you notice, I'm sliding forward just a little bit. This is pretty sharp thread, and you can cut the hair off here, but it's not going to snap on you. So if you just get a few turns in different areas, and then we'll actually fold the wing back. I'm just going to grab it right at the butts there, so it's pretty clean just the way it is. And then I'm going to walk some of these portions back. Give it a shot there. Grab another clump. Walk it back. And then what we'll do is we'll drop some dubbing in there next, in front. And it'll stand the wing up. If you get some strays on the bottom, you can get rid of them pretty easy. And I've been using just a brown. I've got like a UV brown. I don't know if that's visible. It's not. As long as it's rusty colored, you're good. All we're doing is going to cover up those butts and stand that wing up a little bit. So we're going to dub it in there pretty darn thin. But it does take a few turns to cover all the butts up. So here I will push it forward sometimes just to make sure I'm not catching the wing in there. Oop. Alright, so I'm gonna bring it forward now, and I might have to add a little bit more dubbing in there. Better to add than to try to subtract it later. And maybe one more pinch will do it. And again, right in front. And then I'm going to take a peek at it. Just make sure we got things. Sometimes you get a stray. They don't always obey. And we'll just pop them in the front there. And finish it off. And I don't put hackle, I should say, not hackle, lacquer on my dry flies. I just do a double whip finish, and alright, and then we'll just get the wing adjusted. Yeah, and that's it. Make sure my tails are spread out, and that's it. This fly will really fish on rivers like the Missouri, where the fish get a little bit picky.